call every couple of months wondering how much does it cost to refinish a drum set. What they mean is how much does it cost to put new plastic, pearl, laminate on it. And it really depends on the level of repair that the drums need and what you're willing to do yourself and what you want me to do. There are a number of items that you can do yourself. The costs can get to be a bit expensive if you're wanting someone, a professional, to handle everything from disassembling the instrument to putting on the plastic and reassembling it and getting it back to you in plain condition. A couple of things you can do. First of all, you can order your own materials. Precision Drum Company is one that I like to use, and they offer a great selection of pearls and plastic finishes, and you can order that. Decide what you need, get it in. If you need parts, order that stuff in, and I can go to work on the drums. Another thing you can do, and when you watch the video, you'll get an idea of what you think you may be capable of. First of all, disassembling hardware from a drum is not difficult, but it takes time. The same thing can be said for the laminate. That's the most difficult part of the job, really, is removing the laminate. It takes a heat gun and a lot of time. You probably will spend a good 4 hours stripping a 4-piece drum set, three toms and a bass drum. If you can do that, you'll save a lot of money there in labor. Now, reassembling the drums is another area where you can do it yourself, and again, save some time that I don't need to spend doing that. The trickiest part, though, and probably the most critical, is actually applying the finish. And if you haven't done that, I would say go with a lot of caution. Read the directions really well and be very careful. Check out the video, but it's if you're good with tools, if you're good with your hands and you can think the process through, you can probably do it. But that may be an area where you want to job out to a professional. And so if you can break the job down into various segments, and again, watching the video will maybe help you decide that, you might be able to save yourself hundreds of dollars on a refinishing job. So check it out. Give me a call and let me know what you think. Wow, that's done. Well, I just spent almost 4 hours taking the covering off of an old Slingerland drum set, the tom-toms, the bass drum. That is the arduous task of delaminating a drum that you want to refinish with new plastic laminate. Well, it looks like we did it. We got the finish off, the old plastic laminate. We got the areas filled, and then we got it sanded. Now, I used a pretty coarse belt sander to do that. You could probably use a vibrating sander or a palm sander would probably work. What you'd want to do is you just want to smooth the surface out as much as possible. Don't worry, you're not going to get 100% of the glue off, the old glue, and that stuff can get hot and kind of melt. So what you want to do is just get it smooth so that you have a relatively smooth surface for the contact cement to go on here and onto the plastic laminate. Okay, so we got the contact cement applied to the laminate. On the dull side, this is protected by a clear film, and we've got it applied to the shell. And this is, it's getting dry. So what we want is both surfaces dry really well. So I've created an alignment mark on the drum shell. I first pre-wrapped it without any adhesive to see where it would line up, and then I took a pencil and I drew a line so that when the shell is wrapped, the outer wrapping is going to line right up under these tension lugs, the lug casings, and so that seam will be relatively hidden. I need to line that up. There's a little bit extra on each side here. I've taken a piece of wood wrapped with cloth, and I'm going to use that to press down on this just to kind of get it going. Okay, I need to keep that smoothed out. And in the process of going down now, I'm gonna press
with a cloth. It does help to have somebody else assisting doing this, and he's just going to keep that plastic straight and not allow it to touch the drum shell until I'm ready to put that down, because once this contact cement hits the other cement, it's locked in place, and that's it. And continue this down. I've got it, Scott. I've got the top masked off, and now we're talking cement on cement, plastic on plastic. Now I'll take my and I've got a couple of clamps, and we're go ahead and clutch that. And then we'll get into trimming this stuff off of the bearing edge area. Now that we've got the drums completely wrapped, we can go about the task of cleaning up the excess material that hangs over the bearing edge. Now in this drum, I installed 2 of the lugs right away to clamp that down at the seam. That's not a bad idea to do. What you want to do for trimming the excess is get a brand new razor blade. We're going to start in like this. Be really careful not to cut the bearing edge of the drum. Now that we got the plastic material largely cut away, the excess, we can take a very coarse file or wood rasp and cut up at about a 45 to 60 degree angle. Now some people might panic saying, oh, you're going to cut the bearing edge, you're cutting into the bearing edge. No, you don't want to do that, and I'm not doing that. This file will clog really quickly, so you need to keep a file card handy and clean that out periodically. Alright, so we just keep dressing this stuff around, and you can see the plastic is coming away just where it needs to. I'm just starting to touch the wood, but I'm not really into the bearing edge, okay? And that will peel right away. And that's exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so this drum is finished. I got both sides done, and you can see I'm just at such a steep angle. I did not cut into the bearing edge in any way. Now, what you sometimes have is a little bit rough surface on the bearing edge, and a piece of 320 sandpaper is just fine to go over this, and just very lightly clean up that top. Now you're really not removing material, you're just taking out some of the coarse end grain and maybe some little dings and divots that have collected over time. As you can see, this is the next step in refinishing these drums with the new laminate, putting the holes in where the hardware needs to go using a very sharp drill bit. On the vent hole, I've chosen to use a tapered reamer, so we can do that simply by locating the hole with the tapered reamer, finding that soft spot, and then just punching straight down. When you do a recovering job, it doesn't make a lot of sense to make the shells all pretty and glossy with a new finish and have all the chrome looking in kind of bad shape and all fingerprinted up, and a lot of times they get oil and gunk built up on them over years of use. It's also a great time to take some gloss spray and spray paint your rims black, and then put your inlay on the bass drum hoops. For cleaning chrome, there's a couple of options you've got. For really light, just kind of week-to-week maintenance, something like this Windex type product is great for keeping oil and buildup off of chrome. Now this one I've already machine buffed, and I'm going to show you that. But if you don't have a machine buffer, which you probably may not, is Brasso or any other chrome polish. This works great. It says for brass, but it's about the same as any chrome polish I've ever seen in an automotive store. You can just put that stuff on your chrome, and you can let that dry, put it on all your pieces, and then take a dry cloth and just buff that off.
and that'll leave a nice clean finish, and the light will reflect much better. When chrome starts to pit, there's little you can do. Same with the hoops. You can go around all these and then have a nice cotton cloth nearby, or flannel, that's got a dry area on it, and then you can buff that and make that look really nice, really shine, and that'll be a pretty good job. Some of the hoops and hardware that I have for this drum project are a little bit rough, so I'm going to machine buff those. Also, by the way, 409 is a good thing to cut grease and film, and that'll do a fairly good job on this kind of chrome, and also on your drums once they're refinished and they've collected a little dust. Let's go see the magic buffer. I like to buff all the chrome and hardware pieces with a buffing machine, so we'll do that with this. I'll go ahead and probably degrease these a little bit with some Windex or similar product just to get some of the buffing grease off. This is a great time to take the old hoops and dress them up. This one is pretty gnarly looking, so we're going to rough sand those bare wood areas and then rough up the old paint, shoot it with a coat of primer, let that dry overnight, and then lightly sand that with like 320. Really coming down the final stretch. We removed the protective coating, so now things are glossy and shiny. Put the tone control back on, and now it's time. I like to install the badge at this point. So I got a replacement grommet. This is an original Slingerland style grommet, the aluminum one. Put that in the drum like that. Give that a few taps, a few more, and then we'll go with the rounded side of the ball peen. And that is just like factory installation. And we just rotate that logo a little bit, and that is solid. We're going to go ahead and put the hardware on all the drums now. Put these lug casings back on. It's important to stay organized when you do this kind of a job, so everything when it got removed went back into plastic bags so that it could be found again. Okay, that drum is all set. Got all the hardware mounted back on, the fittings, the tone control, and in this case we're just putting the counter hoops back on, and those will be removed later when the customer decides to rehead this project. Alright, we get this last little item here, and that is installing the inlay. This drum set. It's a white, gloss white finish, but the bass drum hoop originally had a stainless steel polished chrome inlay, and this inlay is plastic laminate but is that chrome look, and that'll be just fine. That's going to look great.